Hi guys, so today I'm going to be doing my next throughout the years video, and this one is years 3 and 4, so these are the first 2 years of junior school in the UK, between the ages of 7 and 9 I think. So year 3, I don't remember a lot happening, but I started junior school in 2001, so shortly after I started year 3, 9/11 happened, and for me, like, I was only 7, so I don't really remember a huge amount of what happened. Most of the memories I have of it are from things I've seen since the actual day, from like other programs and documentaries and stuff. I remember coming home from school, and my dad was home, and he normally would come home from work sort of 8 or 9 in the evening, and I got home at about 3:30. So it was weird him being at home, and he tells me that he didn't come home that early, he came home later, so maybe he's right, maybe he came home like 5 or 6, but my memory of the day is not going to be perfect. I'm going to sort of embellish on things and, you know, make things up how I think I remember them. But anyway, I'm sure I came home and he was there. And this can only be sort of a couple of hours after it happened, because obviously we're 5 hours ahead. So if it happened at sort of 9 o'clock there, that's 2 o'clock here. So it would have only just happened sort of a couple of hours ago. But I remember watching Newsround, and I don't know if that still exists, but it was like a children's news programme. And it might have been BBC News, but one or the other, we were watching the news, and they were just showing the pictures of the towers on fire. I don't really remember sort of, I don't really remember how I felt. I was just sort of confused, I guess. I think if it had happened when I was at this age, it would have been the most terrifying thing. Like, when you're 7, you don't really appreciate the severity of things like that, but now it would really scare me. The 7/7 bombings in London, that happened on the day that I had my high school induction, and I go to a school, well, I went to a school in a London borough, so we weren't in London, but we were fairly close, and I just remember that was terrifying, because that was close, and we knew people whose parents were in London that day, so that was a lot closer to home. But anyway, this was a far bigger event, even though I didn't appreciate that at the time. I don't really remember feeling particularly affected by that, to be honest. I remember coming home and seeing it on the TV, but that's about it. A few days later, it might have been the next day, but at some point after this, we had an assembly at school, just like a regular assembly, but my head teacher took the assembly, and I just remember she was crying in it, and she'd never cried in an assembly before. But she was talking about 9/11, and she got very emotional about it, and I'm like 7 or 8 years old and have never been able to deal with emotions, so I'm like, this is very, very strange. So I don't know if she knew someone or if it was just because of how severe it was, and I have no idea, but I remember that point where she was very emotional in the assembly. I remember that being like, oh, maybe it is actually like quite a big deal. Like, I really don't remember how I felt. Like, now I can appreciate that it was horrendous, to put it lightly, absolutely horrendous. That's all I really remember of that, but it's the sort of thing you won't ever forget, like, at least some of it. Like, I'll know that I will remember coming home and standing in my living room and looking at the TV thinking, what is happening, even though I was just 7 years old. So that was pretty much the biggest event that happened in year 3. Even though it didn't really involve me directly. In a sort of weird way, I sort of wish I'd appreciated it more, like appreciated the severity, so I wish I'd sort of been older, but at the same time, I think I would have just been absolutely terrified. If that happened today, I think I would be very, very scared. So, moving on to year 4. This was the year that you're either 8 or 9, and this was the year that I had an American teacher who came over from Iowa for the year and taught my class, and he's one of the best teachers I've ever had. He was very, very cool, and we all called him Mr. F, because he had a sort of, it wasn't that weird a surname, but for a load of 8 and 9-year-olds, some of us found it quite difficult to pronounce, so we called him Mr. F. And we started the year. My school had huts outside, and we had one of the huts as our classroom, and it was the worst thing. It was so ran down. Our cloakroom, I'm not even joking, the width was probably like this for 30 kids and all their stuff. It was quite long, so probably twice the length of from you to the wall. So about that, at least, I'm not quite sure, but it was not a big room at all. I just remember that being the worst place. Like, whenever we had to all go and get our stuff for some reason, it was like hell. Another thing I remember is opening my PE bag to get ready for PE and just this family of spiders crawling out. Like, thinking about it, I don't really like spiders, but I just went, whoa. Other people were screaming, and I was just like, whoa. So anyway, this is not the nicest room, but anyway, halfway through the year, they'd done some new building elsewhere in the school, and then all the sort of classrooms moved around, and we got moved to a proper classroom, which was a lot nicer. And I just remember because my teacher was from Iowa, we had a clock for London, and next to the clock was a clock with the time for Iowa, and I thought that was very cool. I don't know why. I was like 8, and I just thought that was really awesome to have the time zones there. Another thing we did that year was for our class assembly, because our teacher was from America, we did the 50 states of America, and we did a little presentation for each of them. We were each given a state. I actually had 2. I was Michigan and I was Mississippi, which meant I had to do my presentation in Michigan and then run round behind Missouri? Yeah, I guess I had to run around behind Missouri and then do Mississippi. But on the morning of this assembly, we all had our cards with sort of our information on it, the stuff we were going to say and things. On that morning, I'd lost mine. Typical, and I could not find them anywhere, so I'm freaking out because I don't like speaking in front of people anyway. And so I came up with this plan that I was going to, because basically all the information was displayed on like a huge screen for the rest of the school and all the parents to see. So I just thought, why don't I just point and look? I thought this was quite an ingenious plan. Being 9, I was just like, I can just pretend that I don't need any notes. So anyway, this is what I did. I went out, and both times I went like professional people. I went out and I was just like, Michigan, la 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 la, looking at the thing, and I just picked the first one I saw, and I was like, because I remember Mississippi state song is called Go Mississippi, and so I looked up and I went, and Mississippi state song is Go Mississippi, and then my dad was like, you're the only person who didn't use notes, and I'm like, yep. I didn't tell him like I'd lost them, but anyway, that was just another thing I remember. I remember that being a really cool assembly, and this is the first sort of time I was introduced to the 50 states of America, and ever since I have just been actually quite obsessed with learning all 50 and naming them. You know the 50 states game? I've been able to play that sort of ever since year 4 because of that one assembly we did, so I thank Mr. F for helping me out with knowing all 50 states. Another thing that happened this year, which was actually quite a big thing, basically in the summer, I think it was July, it was either the end of June or early July, but I was off sick from school. I was off sick because I felt ill. Although saying that, in year 4 I did take a lot of days off for reasons that weren't particularly legitimate, let's put it that way. So anyway, I was at home ill, and my sister was also at home. I think I had 1 day off, and then the next day she was off as well, and then there were 2 days when we were both off. She said she was feeling really sick, and my sister, like, if I feel the slightest bit ill, I'm gonna let everyone know. I'm such a complainer, and everyone knows about it. My sister is completely the opposite. If she says she's ill, there's a good chance she's very ill, basically. Like, she doesn't complain when she's ill and stuff like that. She's got, I think, a far higher pain tolerance than I do, or she just doesn't complain. But anyway, so she was off school. She was quite clearly a lot iller than I was, and I think it was the second day she was off. Let me think. Maybe I was off for 4 days. Was I really off for 4 days? Anyway, there were a few days that we were both off school. One of the days, she definitely threw up. And it's like, okay, well, you're 6. When people are 6, they do throw up occasionally for not really any reason. There was one time when I was 6, I threw up 9 times in the same night, and I don't even think there was anything particularly wrong with me. I wasn't very ill, I was just sick. So anyway, I don't even know what happened there. But anyway, she threw up. Yeah, we were just like, okay, she's quite ill, obviously. I hadn't thrown up. I was just like, oh, I feel ill. I probably was fine. We then went to the GP because she was getting a sort of pain in her lower stomach, and most people would then say it could be appendicitis. My dad's done work. My dad used to be in the army, and my mum's a doctor, and my dad's worked in the A&E department, I think, as part of his army stuff or whatever. So basically what happened is my mum had gone to London all day because she had like a meeting, so she was out all day, so my dad was in charge of us. He stayed at home with us. Being 9 and 6, my dad was forced to stay home all day. At the moment, let's say my sister's off school, he'll probably go to work and then come back at lunchtime just to make sure she's alright, but in this case he was forced to stay home all day with us. So anyway, my mum's in London, and my dad realised my sister's quite ill at this point. I'm still whinging about nothing, so I was still home, but my sister's obviously quite ill, and she's getting this pain in her stomach. So we went to the GP, and my dad was like, I think she might have appendicitis. The doctor examined her, and I just remember one of the weirdest things was, we got there, and you're at the doctor's. At the doctor's, you're probably ill if you're at the doctor's, or something is wrong with you. And I remember the GP asked my sister, "How are you?" And my sister just went, "Fine." Like, you're not fine if you're at the doctor's anyway. That was quite a funny thing. I remember my dad laughing at that. But anyway, she examined her and stuff, and like, basically, if you have appendicitis, if you poke your stomach, you get like rebound tenderness, so it will hurt easily. It's like, ow. So yeah, she examined her, and the GP just said, "I think she's probably fine." So my dad sort of looked at her and was like, "Right, okay." Like, he was really skeptical. He was adamant that she was really ill. So we went home. GP had said she was fine. My dad was still sure that she was ill. My sister, by the evening, so by the time it's like 6 or 7, my mum's just got home. 6 or 7 in the evening, my sister is in a lot of pain. She's on the sofa crying, and she does not cry in pain. If she's in pain, she just goes, "Ow," and that's about it. She doesn't make a fuss, and she is obviously in agony. So my dad's losing his mind. My mum's just got home, and she's like, "I'm pretty sure it's appendicitis too." So I'm getting quite worried at this point, because I'm like, oh my god, my sister's really ill. So that night we went to A&E. I've never been to, apart from the time my sister was born, I've never been to a hospital. I've never been to hospital personally, as in for an emergency. I've been for like an x-ray on my knee and stuff, but this was the first time I've been to A&E, and I just remember it was the most awful and terrifying experience. I remember waiting for a long time. Probably wasn't even that long. It might have been an hour, 2 hours. Felt like an eternity. When you're 9, 2 hours is like basically a year. So anyway, we waited however long it was. My sister went into majors straight away. You have majors and you have minors. She went into majors straight away, which means she was obviously very sick. My mum works with the trust nearby, so she knows the doctor. She's like, "I want this doctor," basically. So they went straight to majors, and I sat with my dad, and my mum went with my sister. I think a couple of hours later we were allowed to go and see her, and I remember freaking out, because basically she was just in a bed and she had all these sort of wires in her arms. She just had like, I guess she was just on an IV or something. And I was just like, "I want to go home, I want to go home, I want to go home." I couldn't see her. Like, I was getting really sort of, you know, flustered. I did not like the environment I was in. I don't like hospitals at all. And to see my sister in that position, it freaked me out. Like, I was only 9. I'd probably be a little bit better now, but I was freaking out at this point. So I can't remember when I was told. It might have been after, but basically they'd gone in, and my mum and my dad both thought that she had appendicitis. It turned out she had peritonitis, and basically when you have appendicitis, your appendix becomes inflamed and swollen, because it's got, I don't know what causes it, but it gets inflamed and swollen. If you leave it long enough, it will explode and release pus into your abdomen and give you peritonitis, which can kill you quite easily if you don't treat it quick enough. My sister was so tolerant of this pain, and it's not that my parents hadn't done anything about it in time. She had just not complained, and it had been left so long it had actually exploded and ruptured in her stomach. So she had a stomach full of pus, which basically, if you don't do anything about that, that will kill you. So my mum was like, it's basically exploded. So she went into theatre pretty soon after that, and they just got rid of it and stuff. And I went home with my dad. I'd freaked out. I was in tears, like, why has this happened to her? Why has this happened to her? I don't really know what happened. I was just having a bit of a breakdown in the car. I remember crying the whole way home. But yeah, so she had her appendix out that night. And yeah, I don't really remember the next morning as such, but I remember she was in hospital for 4 or 5 days after that, which isn't that long. After you have your appendix out, you actually, most people stay in hospital for quite a while, like a week maybe. She was in there for like not even a week, maybe half a week. And I remember we went there every day after school. I went there every day after school and stayed with her all evening, because obviously I didn't have anything else to do. I wasn't like tied up with homework or anything. I'm in year 4 at this point. And yeah, I just remember it was sort of a really interesting experience. I'd never been into hospital, and I remember I got to eat like hospital food, which I thought was really exciting at the time. It's not, but I thought that was really exciting. And yeah, I just got to spend like the evenings in hospital with my sister, which was alright. She made such a quick recovery, it was insane. And she got home, I think this was on like the Wednesday or the Thursday night. No, maybe the Tuesday, Wednesday night, and on the Saturday she was home. That is how quick she got home. And she was off school for 3 weeks, so I guess this might have been beginning of July because we sort of finished school end of July. I remember she had so many presents from so many people, and I remember being so jealous. I wasn't jealous of her being ill, I was jealous of all the presents. So anyway, that was probably the biggest thing that happened in year 4. And she still has the scar from where it came out. She had quite a big scar because obviously they had to clean out like her insides because you know, pus was everywhere, which was delightful. But yeah, I don't really remember much else other than that. So that was year 3 and year 4, which will conclude this video because nothing much else happened. So I shall leave it there. Thank you for watching. I shall see you tomorrow for another vlog video. See you tomorrow. Bye!